Shalom. Like always, before we get started, all praises to Yahweh. Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kadash. Double honors to Apostle Great Milso. Peace and blessings to Yakim out there. And all for the hopeful elect out there listening, watching, and learning. Shalom. This video is going to be entitled, it's going on to stop calling us Black Hebrew Israelites. Because we're the Hebrew Israelites. Because Israelites are going to come back looking like many multiple and different nations, and looking like multiple from the other nations. Now, and how do we know? Because the scriptures say so. So just like always, we're not going to talk on our own accord. We'll just dive into the scriptures. Now we're going to deal with, start off dealing with the account of how the Jews look, and also we're going to go to the account of how the northern kingdom look. Okay? Let's go into, this is Jeremiah 14:2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish, and they are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. So now we're talking about the Judah, which was the southern kingdom, which consisted of the three tribes at the time, was Judah, Benjamin, Levi. And the scripture said they are black unto the ground. And when you dig into the ground, into the earth, you have different shades of brown. As the deeper you get, the darker it gets. Also, you know, the richer the soil, the darker the soil. So the kingdom of Judah, which was dark skinned, which would have been, which are the so-called Negroes, because they're black onto the, it says they're black onto the ground. And you so-called African Americans, who you want to call African Americans, and when you call yourself blacks, we are different shades of brown, from a dark chocolate ebony brown to the lightest brown. We cover many facets of that spectrum. All right. And when you also go into Lamentations, slacky for a minute. Lamentations 4:8. Their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered. It is become like a stick. And so that word, that visitation, means their visage, how they look, their appearance. They said they're black like coal. When you look at coal, when you get coal, when you so-called y'all jakes go out there and you barbecue, you get, look at a chunk of coal. It's what? It's black. So it's telling you that the vision of the Jews was of a black complexion, dark skin complexion. Because when you jakes are in the sun and you're out there or something, we get darker, man. Even from the lightest brother, man, we get darker as we stay in the sun. Okay? And this is Lamentations also 5:10. Our skin is black like an oven because of the terrible famine. Because there was a famine going in the land. So, you know, as we're going through the famine, we was getting darker and darker because of the famine. Because, and that goes to show you, you show me a so-called white person that's going to get darker, who claims to be a Jew because they're going through a famine or going through a lack of food. They're not. So these are just like three descriptions that are showing how the scriptures describe the children of Salakia, the southern kingdom, the Jews at that time. Well, we all know that the Jews really collectively at that time was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. But when you're really speaking about the Jews, it's talking about just the nation and the tribe of Judah, who are the true Jews. But we are collectively considered the Jews. But Judah is where the term Jew comes from the tribe of Judah. All right. So let's go into Hosea. This is Hosea 7:8. And this is going into talking about the northern kingdom. All right. This is Hosea 7:8. Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. Now, when you're cooking or you're making, anybody has ever made pancakes, or some places they call them flapjacks, as you're cooking, that upper, and you pour the batter down. You got that circular motion going on with the pancake or flapjack, however you want to call it. As the bottom of the cake is being cooked, the top layer is real, real light, right? And it says, Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people, with the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. So as you're cooking that pancake or that flapjack, the top is still getting cooked and the middle is getting cooked up to the top. But that top layer is white. But once you flip it over, and what do you have? You got a brownish tone on that bottom layer that's been cooked. So Ephraim, the northern kingdom, is like a cake not turned. That's just now when we look into, and we're looking to the Slaki. When we look into the slavery amongst the northern and southern kingdom, when we're dealing with the northern kingdom, i.e. the so-called Mexicans, the Boricuas, what they call Puerto Rican brothers, the brothers of South America, the indigenous people of the Americas, Central America, South America, who took them over before they brought the southern kingdom in, was aka these Edomites, the so-called Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, and all of these, and just like at any other time, when you conquer a people, you do what? Most of these European, Spanish, Dutch, they intermingled, they had sex with the women, and they in turn had children or offspring. And just like Jake, anywhere, no matter what, where we're at, we're going to deal with women wherever the women is at, no matter what the race or the creed, as you would say, and we're going to have offspring. And from that, you're going to have, like they call nowadays, mixed children, but which really are the seed of the father. Okay? And the same thing as you're looking to the wars that a lot of Jakes was into and into America, the Vietnam War, when Jakes had time for some libo, what are we going to do after you've been in combat for a while? You want to get with a woman. And what happens? Jake might pop a woman, leave a seed, and she might get pregnant. It might have it might be a young man, a young boy. As he gets older, he deals with what? He deals with the Vietnam women because that's what's around him. And he's already got the features of the dad, but might have most of the features of the mother. And he in turn deals with the Vietnamese woman. 2 or 3 generations down now, that seed of that so-called black man, that Israelite man, is looking like a pure D Vietnamese. Same thing with the Korean War and all the other wars that Jake's been involved when, been over dealing with America, or even before that, when we was in different lands. When we go into the history, when we was all in different captivities, we was dealing with some of the women of the captivities. Even when when we was in Rome, when we was in Corinth, Ephesus, with the book of Ephesians, that go on and on about these things. Jake is dealing with the women of those nations. So we spread our seed throughout all these other nations of people. So we're amongst all these other people. So Israel is not going to be all looking like Shaft. So you just can't come and say these Black Hebrew Israelites, because that's a false statement to make. Because here it is, the Northern Kingdom, so-called Issachar, the so-called Mexicans, some of them look like straight up white dudes. And we even got brothers right now that deal with so-called white women who are going to take on the appearance and the attributes of looking like a so-called white person. Example, Blake Griffin. When you go back to his lineage, his dad is what? Is a Haitian. I believe his mother is white. He look at Blake Griffin. He's looking like he's like a little white boy. Let's keep it real. And he in turn, I believe he's with a so-called Edomite woman, but his son looks like a straight up white boy. Take the time to Google and look. But let's go on to prove all of this. We're going to go into the book of this is Daniel's, and this is going to back up what I was just making a point. This is Daniel's 9 and 7. O Lord, righteousness belonging unto thee, but unto us confusion of faces, as at this day to the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven them, because of their trespass that they have trespassed against thee. So the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahshai has scattered Israel amongst all the nations. And so we're scattered amongst all the nations. So when we're scattered amongst all the nations, men being as we are, we're going to deal with the women that's around and that's in the nation that we're in. And we're going to spread our seed. And no matter what the woman may look like, Asian, whatever, Edomite, so on and so on, we're going to spread our seed, and our offspring is going to have that look of maybe that the mother and the dad, and that seed continues dealing with outside of the nation, they're going to look like these other nations. All right. So we've got to understand that this is not a black power thing. The majority of Israel, yes, is in the Americas. Our so-called Jakes, in the Americas that was brought here in the state. That's where the bulk of us are at. And we're dealing with the Northern Kingdom, i.e. the Native American Indians, so-called Native American Indians, the brothers of Latino descent, the Puerto Rican, the so-called Mexicans, brothers in South America, Central America. Because even during the transatlantic slave, what was the breaking point? The stop point was in the Caribbean, and from there, slaves got moved on into North America, down through Central America, and into South America. So we've been in all those places. And at the same time, when it was bringing Jake from the West Coast, they was taking on the Northern brothers and sisters and putting on these same cargo ships and taking them and being taken into Europe, into Spain in that area. So we got brothers. We're spread out all through the four corners of the earth, as stated as it was prophesied by Yahweh Shem Yahshai that was going to happen to us. Hold up. Deuteronomy 28, verse 64, and this is one of the prophecies. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods which neither now thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So the Lord has scattered us amongst the four corners of the earth, amongst all these nations of people, amongst all the heathens. And that's what I was saying. As we must understand that Israel is going to be coming in different facets, looking like different people. And this is why we don't judge by outward appearance. It's not Black Hebrew Israelites. Kill that noise. We are Hebrew Israelites. And if this words of the Holy Scriptures resonate with you as the truth of the Scriptures of what is being said, and you believe in it from the beginning to the end, then more than likely you are Israelite, regardless of how your outward appearance looks like. Because once you go in, this is Acts 2 and 5. All right. And this is during the time of Pentecost. And there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So even at that time, you had Jews that was all over. We was still just all over the place in different nations, dealing with different women in other nations and everything else. But there was Jews amongst everybody. So we, even just like right now, for example, you have a family that starts off in North Carolina or South Carolina, and they migrate. So now you might have uncles, cousins in California. Aunts and uncles, they might decide, I'm going to leave the country. I'm going to live in Europe. You might have some that live in the Caribbean. Just like Myself being a Benjamite, I have family member that was in Europe, in the Americas, St. Thomas. We're spread out. We just so the same thing as now is the same thing as before. We were all over the place. And even as the Lord scattered us amongst all the other nations. All right. So we've got to understand, and don't be falling for these when they tell us that these black Hebrews. No, they're trying to demonize us as we're some type of hate group. No,